video, we're going to talk about organizational environment and its components. Now, you'll hear organizational environment a lot in business, so let's make sure we talk about what that is so you fully understand it. In business, the organizational environment consists of external forces and conditions that affect that organization's ability to go out and get and then make use of resources. And when we look at those external forces, we can divide them into two components. There is the specific environment and then the general environment. First, let's talk about the specific environment. This includes external stakeholders that directly have influence on the organization's operations. This includes stakeholders like customers, suppliers, competitors, and regulators. Let me give you an example. Customers drive demand for the organization's products, while suppliers provide the necessary raw materials that the company needs to make those products. Competitors push the organization to be innovative and to maintain their competitive edge, and then regulators ensure compliance with legal standards. The general environment encompasses a broader approach. These are those broader forces that affect all organizations, not just one specific one, but it affects the organizations within a specific industry. This includes things like economic trends, technological advances, socio-cultural shifts, and changes in politics or laws. For example, a shift in consumer preferences towards more eco-friendly products, which we've definitely seen in the last decade, this can impact an organization's strategy, requiring it to adapt in order to stay relevant and competitive. Understanding these components helps organizations anticipate and respond to external pressures, ensuring long-term sustainability and success. Next, let's talk about how we can identify sources of uncertainty in the organizational environment. Now, of course, organizations operate in environments where there are varying degrees of uncertainty. I mean, nobody can predict the future. Uncertainty arises from the complexity and the dynamic nature of that external environment. It's just always changing. And the more complex and dynamic an environment is, the more uncertain it is. Complexity is a term that refers to the number of factors in the environment that affect an organization. Now, a highly complex environment might include tons of competitors, technology that changes constantly, and really diverse customer needs. I'll give you an example. The tech industry is highly complex, of course, due to the constant innovation and the nonstop shifting of consumer preferences. Dynamism refers to the rate to which these factors change. A dynamic environment is one where changes occur really fast and they're unpredictable. This includes industries like the fashion industry, where trends just evolve really quickly. Organizations that operate in dynamic environments, they absolutely have to be agile. They have to constantly scan their environments, and then they have to adapt their strategies in order to respond to those changes to mitigate uncertainty. And that's related to the next topic that we're going to discuss, which is resource dependence and interorganizational strategies. Now, that's a whole lot of words and they sound really technical, so let me break it down for you. Resource dependence theory is simply a theory that suggests that organizations are dependent, which is why it's called resource dependence theory, but organizations are dependent on resources that originate from those external environments. And because of this dependency, there are vulnerabilities. For example, organizations, they have to rely on external entities like suppliers, customers, and believe it or not, even competitors for essential resources in order to operate. To manage this dependency, organizations often engage in interorganizational strategies. These strategies can include things like forming alliances, engaging in joint ventures, or even merging with other companies in order to secure critical resources and reduce that uncertainty. I'll give you an example. A car manufacturer might form a strategic alliance with a battery producer. Why would they do that? Well, it's to ensure a stable supply of batteries for electric vehicles. If they can't have that stable supply and there's something that happens that disrupts the supply chain, that's going to significantly impact the car manufacturer's ability to sell their products. These strategies help organizations manage those resource dependencies by increasing the control they have over those really critical resources, and it enhances their ability to operate efficiently in these environments, which, remember, are really uncertain. Now, adjacent to that, let's next talk about how we analyze strategic alliances, mergers, and joint ventures. As I mentioned, it's not uncommon for organizations to pursue strategic alliances, mergers, and joint ventures as an intentional part of those interorganizational strategies. They do it to reduce that resource dependency. Now, these arrangements allow organizations to pool the resources, share the risks, and achieve goals that would be really difficult or maybe impossible to accomplish independently without that partnership. A strategic alliance is a formal agreement between two or more organizations to cooperate for mutual benefit. These alliances, they can take many forms, such as technology sharing agreements for joint marketing campaigns. Just as one example, Apple and IBM formed a strategic alliance to collaborate on enterprise software solutions. A merger is a little bit different. This involves the actual combination of two organizations into one, often for the purpose to achieve economies of scale, to expand the market reach, or to acquire new capabilities. An example of a merger is the merger between Exxon and Mobil, which allowed the combined entity to dominate the global oil industry. And another type is a joint venture. This is where you have a completely new entity that's created by two or more organizations to pursue a specific project or a specific business opportunity. This arrangement allows the involved organizations to share those risks and rewards associated with the venture. An example is the joint venture between Toyota and Subaru to develop and produce sports cars. Each of these strategies offers different advantages and challenges, but at the end of the day, they all aim to do the same thing. The goal is to strengthen the organization's position in the marketplace. Now let's talk about evaluating transaction cost theory in strategy selection. Again, that's a whole lot of business words, so let me break it down. Transaction cost theory. Let's talk about that first. That explains how organizations make choices between different strategies. Things like in-house production, outsourcing, or forming those strategic alliances that we just talked about. And they make those choices based on the costs associated with conducting transactions. That's why it's called transaction cost theory. According to this theory, organizations aim to minimize the cost of exchanging resources, which include costs related to negotiating, monitoring, and enforcing agreements. For example, if the cost of outsourcing a particular function is lower than the cost of performing it internally, an organization might obviously choose to just outsource. However, if the risk of losing control over that function outweighs those cost savings, the organization might decide, well, maybe we should just keep it in-house. Transaction cost theory helps managers evaluate those trade-offs, the distinctions between those different strategic options, and that in turn helps guide them toward the best decisions that optimize efficiency and control in their organizations.